Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and begin to honor everyone's time. Thank you for joining our webinar on reporting EPP data for the 2023-2024 reporting year. We aim to cover everything thoroughly, but we understand you may have additional questions. So please record your questions in the GoToWebinar question field, and we will respond either through a frequently asked questions document or through personal communication following the webinar. Questions submitted through the chat will not be retained. And I just want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and the recording, along with the related FAQ document, will be available in the EPP Training Events and Materials section on the Program Provider Resources page on the TEA website. And I am Lori Ayers, and I am your presenter today. ASEP, ASEP, is a term for the accountability system for educator preparation programs. Note, ASEP also happens to be the name of one of the drop-down menus in the ECOS for Entities green screen. Texas Education Code, or TEC, and Texas Administrative Code, or TAC, require educator preparation programs to report specific information and data to the state annually, which we refer to as annual ASEP reporting or as state reporting. The data reported by EPPs is used for a variety of purposes. Among those is to determine annual accreditation status for EPPs. The ASEP manual in Figure 19 TAC 229.1c outlines the data calculations and performance standards for EPP accreditation. If you are new to the EPP, it's essential to review these requirements. Remember that each program within the EPP contributes to the data collected each year. So effective communication across the programs in your EPP is vital for efficient and accurate data collection and reporting processes. It is important that your EPP data submitted during state reporting is complete and accurate because, as I mentioned before, your data serves various purposes. As stated on the previous slide, your data is used to determine the annual accreditation status for your EPP. Data that EPPs report is also provided to a variety of requesters, including that published on the consumer dashboards. For more insights, explore the data dashboards on the TEA website. You can find them linked on the consumer information page under the Texas Educators drop-down menu. You'll also find data published on your I2I dashboard. And finally, the technology fees paid each year by the EPP are determined based on the number of candidates admitted in all certification programs within the EPP during the reporting year. Please take the time to review records to ensure they are complete and accurate before data is due by 5 o'clock p.m. on September 15th. Let's review some relevant terms that I'll be referencing throughout this presentation. First, as we all know, EPP is the Educator Preparation Program, which you are here representing today. The CDN is the unique 6-digit county district number that is assigned to each EPP. Every program, certificate, and class the EPP offers is under the same county district number. Your county district number is populated at the top of the screens in your ECOS for Entities account. ECOS, or ECOS, is the Educator Certification Online System, which houses the educator data statewide, including the data reported by EPPs. The TEA ID is the identification number assigned to candidates and educators that is used for certification and the exam registration process. The term clinical experience broadly describes clinical teaching, internship, practicum, and effective September 1st, 2024, includes residency. Some roles that may be referenced today are the EPP legal authority, who is the ultimate responsible party for the EPP. All official communications are sent to the legal authority, and that individual is the person authorized to sign documents on behalf of the EPP and to manage EPP staff access to ECOS for entities. An EPP in a service center or at a school district or charter school may have a primary contact that will act in place of their legal authority. Some EPPs have identified a backup legal authority who can assist with those duties. The certification officer typically recommends certificates. However, in many EPPs, that role may also be responsible for other areas such as admissions, test approval, and/or state reporting. Some EPPs have a person whose function is specifically to report data each year. Whoever completes the state reporting for your EPP must have the ASEP update access in ECOS for entities. If you have new staff that need assistance establishing the correct accesses in ECOS entities, please have them reach out to your assigned specialist at TEA for that assistance. Our goals for this presentation are, first, to provide the guidance for state reporting tasks this year and identify some resources available to you for reporting 2023-2024 data. Additionally, I'll let you know about some updates that will impact state reporting this year. This is also an opportunity for you to gather your thoughts and questions around state reporting and then submit those questions to TEA so that we can publish responses for the good of the whole group. Please ask and we will respond. Note for the remainder of this training, I may refer to the reporting year as 23-24 to save voice. This slide frames up the continuum of reporting across the reporting year. Note the gold circle represents where we are in this process. The reporting year began on September 1st, 2023. TEA has worked closely with EPPs to facilitate a smooth reporting experience. In March 2024, TEA provided mid-year data sets and updates to assist EPPs with reconciling data up to that point. Those data sets were added to the EPP share file folder, and program legal authorities and primary contacts were notified and given access to those folders. TEA continues to enhance the ECOS for Entities green screen to support timely and accurate reporting. We will look at recent enhancements later in this presentation. Now we're in August, and state reporting for 23-24 data is approaching with a due date of 5:00 p.m. on September 15th, as specified in TAC. If you have been consistently adding your EPP data to ECOS throughout the year, completing the state reporting task now should only require some final touches, including some quality control for accuracy and completeness. There are a number of resources available to assist EPP staff with state reporting. The Data Reporting Manual remains the best resource for EPP staff, with detail and instruction around required reporting, including useful examples and screenshots throughout the manual. You will find the most recent version of the Data Reporting Manual posted in the Forms and Documents section on the Program Provider Resources webpage on the TEA website. Also on the Program Provider Resources page, you will find the Request for Correction forms, Request for Exception forms, and affidavit forms your EPP will need to complete your state reporting. Additionally, the weekly newsletter will contain reminders and information related to state reporting, as well as contact information for various TEA staff who can assist you. To subscribe to the newsletter, use the link at the top of the most recent archived copy of the newsletter. The archives are also on the Program Provider Resources page. For most efficient service when you need assistance during state reporting, use the TEA Help Desk system. This process is preferred because the help desk does not cycle out tickets like our email does, and is monitored by multiple TEA staff, ensuring your submission won't get lost amidst the avalanche of emails during state reporting time. Additionally, the help desk is secure, so if you must send files that contain candidate identifiers, you can do so with confidence. When submitting a file for review or a request for correction form or an affidavit, please help us by labeling your files with short, specific names. Submit forms and inquiries to the data reporting tile in the help desk. No need to notify your education specialist separately, as the help desk system will automatically send us an email when your ticket arrives. Additional resources include data sets that TEA provides periodically. As mentioned previously, these are uploaded into your EPP share file, and your legal authority or primary contact has the access. For EPPs who update ECOS with data throughout the year, the mid-year data sets are a useful checkpoint. The end-of-year data sets, which will be added to share file early in the week following Labor Day, are also useful if your data is all in ECOS by end of August. Note, if the program does not have observation records complete in ECOS by end of August, then the end-of-year data sets will not provide insight about whether your observation records are complete. Your legal authority or primary contact will receive an email reminder when the end-of-year data sets are uploaded. EPPs recently received principal and teacher survey rosters to verify and request exceptions to the survey data if needed. The due date for requests for exceptions to survey data has been extended, and those requests are now due at TEA along with other requests for exceptions by 5:00 p.m. on September 15th, 2024. EPPs can also generate reports in ECOS as helpful tools to review some of their data, such as an admission report to verify admission data. So TEA will not send admission data sets to the EPP. Later in this presentation, there will be screenshots of some of those reports. For access to data sets in ShareFile and for efficient communication with TEA during state reporting, please keep TEA informed of any key staff changes, such as your legal authority, your primary contact, and your certification officer. Your assigned specialist at TEA can help with updating contact information as needed. This is an overview of what you should have completed or should be in process of completing to prepare to submit your data by 5:00 p.m. on September 15th, 2024. First, for all programs within your EPP, such as your undergraduate teacher program, your post-bac principal program, your school counseling program, etc., you must compile and report the total number of applicants throughout the 23-24 reporting year. If you have not tracked this data, you will need to gather and input the required data into ECOS before 5:00 p.m. on September 15th. We will discuss this further on another slide. Next, you will ensure admitted candidates have a complete and accurate admission record. Some teacher candidate records might be missing subject-specific content hours and the related GPA, or might be missing SAT, ACT, or GRE scores, if those are applicable. Review and update admission records to include all required data for each candidate. You can use the upload to update functionality to edit multiple records, or you may make manual adjustments to editable fields in an individual admission record. For the 23-24 reporting year, candidates in all programs within your EPP will fall into 3 enrollment categories: finishers, who completed all requirements in 23-24, other enrolled, who are still working on requirements as of close of 23-24, or removed, which would be those who left the program for any reason during the 23-24 year. You will update the enrollment status on the finisher records list in ECOS. For candidates who completed part or all of a clinical experience in 23-24, EPPs must make sure there is a clinical experience record in place and that all observations completed for that candidate during 23-24 have been entered. Observation data is recorded in ECOS as well. Now let's take some time and look at some more detail about reporting in each of the areas just described on the previous slide. To do so, we will move sequentially through the process of admitting and preparing candidates. The first step in that process is that individuals must apply for admission into your EPP. Applicants include individuals seeking certification as teachers or principals or educational diagnosticians or any of the other certificate classes your EPP may be approved to offer in any route that you offer, including the traditional undergraduate route, the post-baccalaureate route, and the alternative certification route. EPPs are required to report the number of applicants to all programs within the EPP and to disaggregate that data by gender and race ethnicity. The annual performance report, or APR, screen under the ASEP menu in your ECOS for Entities green screen is used to report applicant data. Note if you search by past years on this screen, you will be able to view your summarized data reported for applicants, admissions, and other enrolled and finisher enrollment statuses for a selected year. TEA populates most of this information in this report from the data you report in admissions and on the finisher records list. You can see on this screenshot that the applied column on this page has space for the EPP to report the applied numbers. EPPs may continue to update these numbers throughout the year as needed. New numbers will save over previous numbers. The screens under the ASEP menu, including this one, lock at 5:00 p.m. on September 15th each year. Once ASEP locks, no edits can be made to your applied numbers. Up to that time, the EPP can continuously edit the applied data. The screen is intuitive, but there are instructions at the top if you need them. Just select the reporting year, which will be 23-24, and populate the applied fields. To report the applied numbers, count all individuals who applied to each program in your EPP during the 23-24 reporting year, including applicants to the teacher undergraduate program, the teacher alternative certification program, the principal postbac program, the superintendent alternative certification program, and so forth, as applicable to the programs your EPP is approved to offer. Report all applicants to all programs within the EPP as one total all number for the EPP that is not broken out by program. Then you're going to disaggregate the all number by gender and record the numbers in rows 2 and 3. Then you're going to complete rows 4 through 7 by disaggregating the all number by race ethnicity. If you don't have demographic information for one or more of your applicants, you still need to include those applicants in the all count, but would not include them in the demographic count. In that case, your demographic group numbers would not add up to the all number. This is acceptable. Practically speaking, the total of rows 2 and 3 cannot exceed the all number in row 1. Likewise, the total of numbers in rows 4 through 7 cannot exceed the all number in row 1. For your convenience, ECOS will validate those numbers and flash an error message if your demographic group totals exceed the all number. Note this screen will allow negative values. Don't know why, but it will. Please do not report negative numbers and remove any negative numbers during your quality control checks before finalizing your data. Some simple quality checks can be performed by the EPP data reporter to ensure the applied data is accurate and complete. Make sure all programs have provided their applicant data. Then do the math again to verify the data is accurately portrayed on the applied data screen in the annual performance report. Before finalizing your 23-24 data, remember to cross-check the applied data with the admissions data. The applied all number must be greater or equal to the total admitted number. So thinking practically about this, the EPP cannot admit more candidates than the number that actually applied. ECOS will not validate these numbers for you, so remember to check this right before you finalize your data, just to be sure those last-minute updates to your admission list did not change the balance between the applied and admitted numbers. You can continue to edit the applied numbers throughout the reporting year by writing over the previous number and saving. The annual performance report page will lock with the other pages under the ASEP menu in ECOS at 5 p.m. on September 15th, and the applied numbers will not be editable after that lock. The data team at TEA will collect some of the data that we are required to report each year from the admission records you create in ECOS. Your EPP will have created admission records throughout the reporting year for applicants that met admission requirements and were admitted into your EPP. This is because there is a requirement in 19 TAC 227.17 that the admission record must be created within 7 calendar days of the formal admission date for each candidate. So at state reporting time, the data reporter for your EPP will mostly be engaged with making sure these records are accurate and complete. If the EPP somehow forgot to create an admission record for a candidate that was admitted earlier in the reporting year, that record can be created up to August 31st of the reporting year. There are 3 screens under the ASEP menu that EPPs use to create and track admission records for candidates. You will find more information about how to navigate and use these screens in the data reporting manual. The EPP must create an admission record that includes all certificates the candidate is admitted to pursue. For example, a teacher candidate that is admitted to pursue core subjects with Science of Teaching Reading EC through 6 and a bilingual supplemental will have an admission record that reflects both certificates, the content and the supplemental. To create admission records, you have 2 options. Use the admission search in ASEP for individual entries, or prepare a CSV file to upload records for multiple candidates using the Upload Admissions option. ECOS will allow you to edit certain fields through the upload or manually, such as if you have to go back and add SAT or ACT scores for your teacher candidates, if those scores were not included when the admission record was created. The screenshot on this slide depicts the admission report you can access via Maintain Admissions. Select the 2023-2024 reporting year to generate the report of all admission records created for 23-24. You can also export the report in an Excel file that will allow you to sort, which is helpful for verifying all programs have reported admission data. Note that admission records cannot be deleted by the EPP. If you create the record in error, send a written request to your assigned specialist via the TEA help desk, directing us to remove the record for you. The admission record should not be deleted or changed if the candidate leaves the EPP after admission or changes certificate category. The candidate's admission in the original category remains unchanged despite any subsequent changes to candidate status or certificate area. As previously mentioned, you have until August 31st to create admission records for candidates that may have fallen through the cracks and were admitted with no admission record created. You will have until 5:00 p.m. on September 15th to create an admission record for anyone admitted with an admission date in the last week of August of 2024. To make reporting easier and to help problem solve issues, let's look at some areas in which common errors occur. You cannot create an admission record for someone already enrolled in the same CERT license ID in another EPP. This intentional restriction helps with data cleanliness. If you try to create an admission record for an already enrolled candidate, the error message will indicate the EPP's county district number where the candidate is enrolled. This allows you to contact the other EPP to resolve any record discrepancies. Another area with common errors is in the CSV file upload process. The format of the CSV file is sensitive. So to check formatting easily, open your CSV file with Notepad. Stray marks, spaces, and lines are noticeable in the Notepad view. Correct any errors in Notepad and save the changes for a hassle-free upload. Also, when creating the admission record, the certificate and route identifiers must agree. The CERT license ID should be the correct CERT license ID for the specified route, and the role should be appropriate for the specified certificate. For example, notice in the screenshot, the candidate is admitted to an ACP seeking LOTE Spanish. The route identifies the candidate as alternatively certified. The CERT license ID for LOTE Spanish offered in the alternative route is 1262, which is different than the CERT license ID for LOTE Spanish for an undergrad or postbac route. Finally, LOTE Spanish is a classroom teaching certificate, so 029 is the required roll code. If you were to choose, for example, the roll code for principal, you should get an error message when creating the record. Let's look for a moment at CSV files that are required to use the upload function in each of the areas in which you will report data. Since we are talking about admissions, we'll use the admission upload file for this example. We know that a CSV file can be a sensitive bit of business, and often EPPs will have upload errors due to formatting in their CSV file. You can easily review the formatting of your file by opening the CSV spreadsheet in Notepad. In this screenshot, I've opened my CSV spreadsheet with Notepad, and I can see multiple errors that would have disrupted my upload. Please note that EPPs will often submit to TEA files that are not uploading so that we can help troubleshoot the cause of the upload failure. The first thing we do is open the file with Notepad. More often than not, we are able to spot the errors. You should be able to correct the errors in the Notepad view, and then remember to save it. Each year, TEA receives questions about reporting SAT, ACT, and GRE scores. Those fields are in the admission record, but they're identified as optional because some programs are not required to report those numbers. but some programs are required to report those numbers. To clarify, if your EPP requires SAT, ACT, or GRE scores for admission, you must report them. For example, a GRE score is required for a candidate with a GPA below 2.5 who is seeking admission into a non-teacher program, such as principal, school counselor, etc. So the EPP would include the GRE score in the admission record for the candidate. Additionally, for university-based EPPs, if your university requires these scores for admission into the university, then the EPP is required to report them via the EPP admission record. And much thanks to Texas A&M University for being my example. Some simple quality checks can be performed by the EPP data reporter to ensure the admission data is accurate and complete. Admission data should be reviewed early in the data reporting process to pinpoint any corrections that TEA may need to assist with. If our team gets overwhelmed with last-minute data fix requests, then we cannot possibly complete them all by your reporting deadlines. Ask for an admission list from each program and use that to cross-check that each candidate has an admission record. Export an admission report for 23-24 and look for missing data. And before finalizing your 23-24 data, remember to cross-check the admission total with the total applied number to ensure the admission number is not greater than the number you reported that applied during 23-24. Candidate enrollment data must be reported by the EPP. This reporting requirement has been in effect since the 2009-2010 reporting year. Before that, only finishers were reported. Note, if you need to access the finisher list prior to 2008-2009, they are available in your archived ASEP in ECOS. Candidate enrollment records are reported on the finisher records list in ECOS. The finisher records list is one list that can be sorted for all candidates or by enrollment status of other enrolled or finisher. You can also display those candidates that were removed from the list. For your convenience, when you create the admission record for a candidate, ECOS courteously creates the enrollment record for the candidates for each of the certificates included in the admission record. The enrollment status is automatically populated as other enrolled. On a related note, for those who do not already know this, the admission record also is nice enough to create a test approval record for the candidates as well. The candidate status will be marked as eligible because the EPP decides when the candidate is ready for testing and when to approve it. So if all of your admission records were created as required, then updating candidate enrollment status on the finisher records list during the reporting year is an easy task. Candidates can be placed on the finisher records list in two ways. First, as previously mentioned, is by creating an admission record for the candidate. The EPP cannot add a new candidate directly to the finisher records list without first creating an admission record for that candidate. Once the initial record is created, the EPP may update enrollment records as needed throughout the year by adding or removing certificate areas or by updating status. Second, candidates designated as other enrolled at the end of one reporting year will automatically roll over to the next reporting year. This saves EPP staff time because they do not have to create a new enrollment list each year. There are three screens EPPs can use to manage enrollment records and generate reports. First, you can search for an individual candidate using student search and update the record manually from the resulting student maintenance screen. Second, you can generate and filter a list via Maintain Finishers and change candidate status from an existing record from that list. And don't forget to save it. And finally, you can use the Upload Finishers bulk upload option to add or delete a record or change the enrollment status for one candidate or for multiple candidates simultaneously. When reporting the enrollment status of candidates on the Finisher Records list, first identify everyone who finished requirements at any point from September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024, and change their status to Finisher. Then, review all candidates listed as other enrolled and change the status to removed for any candidates that are no longer in the EPP. All other candidates who remain are still working on completing requirements, and they will remain at a status of other enrolled. As a reminder, Finisher status is not determined based on whether a person has been recommended for a standard certificate or has passed a certification exam. These factors are not considered criteria for determining Finisher status. You'll find the definition of a finisher or a completer, which is another word for finisher, in Chapter 229 in TAC. Before we move on to the next section, let's take a minute and summarize some key actions you'll need to take regarding reporting candidate enrollment on the Finisher Records list. First, when candidates finish your program, update their status to Finisher on the Finisher Records list. Do this throughout the year. For example, if you have an undergrad teacher program with fall graduates that complete requirements and are recommended for standard certificates in December, then change their status to Finisher on the Finisher Records list in December before you recommend the standard certificate. Second, if a candidate changes the certificate sought, including content area or route, update the Finisher Records list to reflect the new certificate and then remove the previous certificate. And if a candidate adds another certificate area, add another row to the candidate's record with the additional certificate. If you do not keep up with this throughout the year, you'll need to review these records now and update any that need to be updated before 5:00 p.m. on September 15th. Finally, if candidates leave your program, remove them from your Finisher Records list. If this was not completed throughout the year, you'll need to review records now and update them, removing candidates as needed before 5:00 p.m. on September 15th. Note that you received a mid-year data set that contained a list of candidates who've been carried on your Finisher Records list as other enrolled for 5 or more years. Pay special attention to these candidates and remove any that are no longer active in your programs. And remember, inactive candidates will continue to roll over on the Finisher Records list each year if you do not remove them. Thank you to those EPPs who have worked hard to clean up their Finisher Records lists to remove any candidates who are no longer in their program. Clinical experience records enable the EPP to efficiently record essential information regarding clinical experiences, including clinical teaching, internships, and practicums. EPPs are obligated to monitor and document activities around clinical experiences. Candidates who completed all or part of a clinical experience in 23-24 must have a clinical experience record in ECOS. Note that candidates must have an admission record and must have an enrollment record on the Finisher Records list before the EPP can create the clinical experience records for the candidate. Additionally, candidates must have a clinical experience record for an EPP to be able to report the related observations. A note about the clinical experience screens. Due to an update to Chapter 228 that is effective September 1st, You will begin to see full year residency options populating in the clinical experience screens and in other screens throughout ECOS entities. These updates will be released into the ECOS screens throughout the fall starting September 1st. Please note the residency options are only used by programs that are approved by the SBEC to offer the residency route. Any person in any program within the EPP who started or completed any part of the required clinical experience during the 23-24 reporting year must have a clinical experience record. There are two screens under the ASEP drop-down menu in ECOS that allow the EPP to create and manage clinical experience records. EPPs can create a clinical experience record for an individual candidate manually via the clinical experience records option, or for one or more candidates using bulk upload via the upload clinical experience option. To create a record manually, search on the TEA ID number of the person whose record you want to create and then select Add Record. This option is also useful if you need to edit a record that is already in place. Note that a record cannot be edited or deleted by the EPP if there are observations tied to it. To upload multiple clinical experience records, use a CSV file formatted as in the instructions provided on the Upload Clinical Experience page. The Clinical Experience Records option also allows the EPP to view a report of all clinical experience records created for the year. Note this report can also be exported. However, the export button for this screen is located in a different place on the screen than the export options on the screens we've already viewed. Notice the green Export to CSV button next to the white search field in this screenshot. There's a red arrow pointing to it, so you'll know where it's located. There is limited editing and deleting allowed for clinical experience records. For example, once a record is tied to an observation, the EPP cannot edit or delete that record. In the interest of accurate data, if EPP staff need assistance with correcting these records, please reach out to the assigned specialist at TEA. Due to recent enhancements in our admin screens, we may be able to make the correction for you. To create a clinical experience record for a candidate, the candidate must have an admission record with the EPP and must be listed as either other enrolled or finisher on the finisher records list. The clinical experience record will pull data from various sources, including candidate certificates, whenever possible. Those fields cannot be edited by the EPP or by TEA. The clinical experience record is linked to observation records because the observations are recorded during the candidate's clinical experience. Both the observation report and clinical experience report will share data. To create an observation record, a valid clinical experience record is required. Some observation data will also be collected and stored within the clinical experience record. Once a clinical experience record is linked to an observation, the EPP cannot edit or delete the clinical experience record. Reach out to TEA for assistance as needed on that one. If you need assistance using the clinical experience feature, please refer to the data reporting manual published on the Program Provider Resources page. EPPs are strongly encouraged to create these records throughout the year due to the large volume of work that will ensue if the EPP is attempting to create both clinical experience records and observation records at the end of the reporting year. Data around field supervision is another important area that you will report. EPPs must report all formal observations conducted by field supervisors for all candidates in all programs who participated in a clinical experience in 23-24. The number of formal observations for that candidate must meet or exceed the minimum number of required observations for the type of clinical experience in which the candidate participated. It is very important that EPPs report all observations for all candidates who were in any part of a clinical experience in 23-24, since observation completion is part of Indicator 4 of the EPP accountability indicators identified in 19 TAC section 229.4. An important note, informal observations conducted by the field supervisor and observations conducted by cooperating teachers, mentors, campus supervisors, and site supervisors are not reported in ECOS. Not reported in ECOS. While it is a best practice for field supervisors to informally observe and support candidates, and to have campus personnel observe and provide feedback on candidate performance, their observations are not reported in ECOS. Instead, retain the evidence in candidates' records as part of the completion documents required to be kept per the records retention requirement in 19 TAC 228.40F, or after 9/1/2024, the records retention citation becomes 228.13H. There are 3 screens under the ASEP menu in ECOS that EPPs will use to report and manage observation data. Observations can be entered manually for one candidate by searching the candidate TEA ID on the observation page. Observations for one or for multiple candidates may be uploaded using a CSV file via Upload Observations. Note that there is also a link in a candidate's clinical experience record that will take you to the manual observation entry screen for that candidate. It's important to report all formal observations conducted by the field supervisor, not just the minimum number required. For example, if the minimum required observations for a clinical teacher are 3, but your field supervisors complete 5 formal observations, then report all 5 formal observations. And as identified on the previous slide, only formal observations conducted by the field supervisor should be reported in ECOS. Also remember, the field supervisor that conducted the observation must be listed in your field supervisor database in ECOS. If not, you will get an error message when you try to add the observation into ECOS. To access the field supervisor database, select the field supervisors option on the ASEP menu. Remember that a field supervisor that is tied to an observation may not be removed from your database. You should get an error message if you attempt to remove a field supervisor that is tied to an observation. TEA continues to strongly encourage EPPs to enter observation data as they occur throughout the year to avoid losing track of that data as the year progresses and to clear any issues that may arise with entering those observations in advance of state reporting. EPPs have the option to allow virtual observations, but they are not obligated to do so. For teacher candidates, the EPP may allow up to 2 virtual observations. For reporting purposes, EPPs must specify in ECOS whether an observation was conducted in person or virtually. This chart provides an example of the number and format of observations that you would be expected to report if your EPP allowed virtual observations for your teacher candidates in 23-24. Note the P is for in-person observation and the V represents virtual observations. Before implementing virtual observations for teacher candidates starting September 1, it's important to carefully review the complete new rule text starting in 19 TAC 228.105 to understand specific requirements related to virtual observations. Certain aspects, such as the total number of required observations, might change if virtual observations are allowed. TEA strongly encourages EPPs to provide training to field supervisors regarding conducting virtual observations and the related requirements, since field supervisors assigned to teacher candidates may not be accustomed to performing observations virtually. To be successful uploading observations, it's important to understand the validations in place in ECOS. First, the candidate must have a record on the Finisher Records list for the 23-24 reporting year and must have a clinical experience record. If you attempt to add an observation and one of those records is missing, you will get an error message. Error messages prevent the data from recording. Additionally, the field supervisor must be in the field supervisor database, and the observation date must be within the assignment begin and end date that is recorded in the clinical experience record. In response to requests from EPPs, recent enhancement to ECOS entities has updated the observation validations. The new validation allows the EPP to enter the observation in a past locked year as long as it meets the other validation requirements and the assignment end date is in the current unlocked year or in a future locked year. If the clinical experience ended in a past locked year, you cannot go back and add an observation. We hope you'll find this validation update helpful. Let's take a look at an example of this validation. This graphic depicts a clinical experience with a start date of August 20th, 2024, and an end date of August 20th, 2025. So could be representative of a candidate beginning a full year clinical experience right now. Observation number 1, which is in blue, was completed on August 30th, 2024, which was before the 23-24 ASEP lock on September 15th. But due to the new observation validation rule that allows the EPP to enter an observation at any point during the clinical experience, the EPP can enter observation 1 after the 24-25 year unlocks. The new validation allows the observation to be entered at any point throughout the clinical experience. But, and this is important, the end date of the assignment must be in the current unlocked ASEP year or in a future ASEP year that is going to be locked. Observations cannot be entered for clinical experiences that ended in past locked years. The reason that observation number 7 in red could not be entered in this example is because it is outside the assignment end date. This is an existing validation that was not changed. When the EPP attempted to enter observation number 8, it's the last one in red, one or both error messages would have resulted. One, flagging the observation as outside the assignment end date, and the other flagging that there is not a clinical experience record, since the observation occurred in 25-26 and the clinical experience ended in 24-25, which is the previous locked year. The new validations provide some flexibility for implementation of the new Chapter 228 observation schedule effective 9/1/2024, which will require field supervisors to conduct the first formal observation for an intern within the first 4 weeks of the assignment instead of the first 6 weeks. We hope you find the validation updates helpful. Once again, though, the advisement is always to enter your observations in the reporting year in which they occur. But if you forget one, there's still a chance you can enter it in the next reporting year if it meets the validation requirements. We reviewed the data that must be submitted. Now let's look at some additional areas that impact your state reporting for 23-24 data. If an EPP failed to report data correctly in a past locked ASEP year, it may interfere with the program's ability to report related data this year. If that happens, the program may need to submit a data fix request for correction, or RFC, to TEA to add missing data or to correct data that was entered incorrectly in the past locked year. Additionally, the EPP may need to submit a request for exception, or RFE, to TEA to remove a data point from the EPP data for the 23-24 reporting year. Both RFC and RFE options will be available this year during state reporting. The RFC and RFE forms and related instructions are published on the Program Provider Resources page for your convenience. Please remember to get data fix requests for corrections in as early as possible to give TEA staff time to make the corrections before 5:00 p.m. on September 15th. Data fix requests that are submitted after August 25th may not be processed by September 15th. TEA staff will process your requests on a first-come basis and will respond to the requester when they are complete. All requests for exceptions are due to TEA by 5:00 p.m. on September 15th. To finalize the state reporting of your 23-24 data, the EPP will submit an affidavit verifying that your data is accurate and complete. The EPP legal authority must sign the affidavit. For service center and school district EPPs, the primary contact on file at TEA will sign the affidavit. Affidavits are due to TEA by 5:00 p.m. on September 15th when ASEP closes. You will find a copy of the affidavit on the Program Provider Resources page on the TEA website. This document must be submitted as a live document. So for best results, save a copy of the document to your computer before you fill it out. Once the document is complete, sign it electronically and save it again. Then submit the affidavit to the help desk at TEA. Do not send a scanned copy of the affidavit. If the document is not working for you, please check and make sure you have an updated version of Adobe. Note there is a new reporting requirement this year. The new Chapter 228 that will be effective September 1st, 2024 requires the EPP to annually report to the SBEC all names under which it was doing business during the previous year. The effective date of that rule requires TEA to begin collecting that information. So we will include that in state reporting of 23-24 data. For your reference, the citation for that new requirement is 19 TAC 228.23E. The DBA name, or doing business as name, is any name your EPP has used that is not the SBEC approved name for your EPP. In the example, the Region 4 Education Service Center is the SBEC approved name of the EPP, but they do business as Inspire, Texas. So their DBA name is Inspire, Texas. They would report Inspire, Texas as their DBA name during state reporting this year. And thank you to our Region 4 team for being an example. We will use the affidavit this year as the vehicle in which to collect DBA information. You will notice on the affidavit there are fields to populate with your EPP's DBA name or names as applicable. If your EPP operated under your SBEC approved name during 23-24, then you may not have any other DBA names. When completing the DBA information on the affidavit, if you have questions, please reach out to your assigned specialist at TEA and we will help you figure it out. Our reporting timeline is efficient. And for those programs who are keeping up with data entry throughout the year, the process should be even more efficient. Look for your end-of-year observation data sets in early September. If your data is final by August 31st, you can use the observation data sets to review your data and make any last-minute adjustments as needed. Additionally, review your ECOS reports for admissions, clinical experiences, and enrollment data to make sure all is correct there. Your goal is to have all data complete and accurate in ECOS by 5 p.m. on September 15th, when ASEP will lock. To reiterate, all data means data for all of the programs within your EPP and includes updated, accurate, and complete admission records, candidate enrollment status on the finisher records list, clinical experience records, and formal observation data as applicable, and applied data. Additionally, your affidavit certifying your data must be submitted by 5 p.m. on September 15th. TEA education specialists will review your data to ensure all screens are populated and that your affidavit of data accuracy has been received. The 23-24 ASEP will not unlock for revisions. Please be careful and deliberate about ensuring data accuracy. Admissions, finisher records, clinical experience records, observation data, and applied data are all in the ASEP menu. After it locks, you will not be able to go back and change any of that data in the locked year. Before we close today, let me highlight some key points that we felt were important enough to repeat. First, all candidates completing clinical teaching, internship, or practicum, including extensions, require field supervision. Clinical experience records and observation data must be reported for all candidates in clinical experiences in 23-24. Next, admission records cannot be created or updated after 8/31. If the admission year, cannot be created or updated after August 31 of the admission year. So remember to verify admission records early in the reporting process. This should not be a problem because admission records are required to be created within 7 days of the candidate's formal admission date. Note here, for a candidate admitted in the last week of August, an admission record can be created after August 31st and up to 5 p.m. on September 15th, when ASEP locks. The third bullet reminds us that ASEP for 23-24 will not unlock again after it closes on September 15th. So please allow time before September 15th to run your quality control on your data. Conduct your data reviews and quality checks at least days before September 15th to allow time for last-minute additions, deletions, and corrections. Do not rely on upload status results as a quality control measure. Check your work. While there are error messages and warning messages built into all aspects of ECOS for your convenience, including upload status information, we cannot possibly predict all of the things that could potentially happen to disrupt an upload. So do not rely on a successful upload status as your ultimate quality check. Another important reminder is to remove candidates from the finisher records list who are no longer in your EPP so that they don't roll over to the next year. Also, please remember that TEA specialists have limited time during state reporting, as they are called to assist all EPPs. So submit data fix requests and requests for assistance with data entry issues early to ensure your needs are met before the 5 p.m. September 15th deadline. Our final reminder is to please report any issues with ECOS as soon as possible. TEA relies on our users in the field to let us know when ECOS is not working as it should be. We can expect a slowdown periodically between September 1st up to September 15th. However, if something breaks and the screens or data entry portals are not functioning properly, we will have to turn in a ticket to IT so that they can fix those and you all can finish your data entry. So let us know ASAP if that happens, please. This concludes our training on 23-24 state reporting requirements. Please record your final questions in the question feature on the toolbar. Give us a few days to get the recording of this presentation posted, as well as the FAQs. We will notify you in the newsletter when the recording is posted. Have a wonderful day and best wishes for an efficient and trouble-free state reporting experience.